Alright everyone, there's a link in the description of this video, and Razorfist actually made a really good point the other day, and then spawning the main video of the day actually, which is YouTube is Astroturfing your replacement if you're a content creator. This doesn't really apply if you're just absorbing content, but really they're trying to drive independent content creators off the site, either through purges or demoralization through algorithmic manipulation, or just letting them sort of fall by the wayside and slow down and quit over time. And what Razorfist pointed out is it was odd to him, and I agree, that you'll have a situation, and it's not just for music, but that's one of the big things he's into. You'll have some relatively small creator, like a few thousand subscribers, interviewing like Justin Bieber or something like that, and it seems odd. And this has been a thing actually for years, and it goes back to something that YouTube in itself started doing a couple of years ago. I made a video on it at the time, and I'll put two and two together and explain exactly what I think is happening here, because I've been prescient with regards to YouTube's actions, I think, so far, and Razorfist has as well. First and foremost, there will be a pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube. Just keep in mind, and part of this video is about this, YouTube algorithmically demotes actual independent content, especially news and politics, anything current events related. And so I make 2 videos every day just on other sites. 4 links will be in a pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube. By the way, actually, usually my Daily Motion uploads are ready before the 2 YouTube ones, even though they're 2 extra videos, because YouTube's processing time is now so much slower because they're dedicating so much of their server power to constantly checking everything and purging people and fiddling around with algorithms and going through people's comments and removing them. By the way, some people have complained that their comments disappear on my channel. Trust me, it's not me doing that. I don't have enough time in the day to go through 10, 20,000 comments. So that's YouTube's doing. It has nothing to do with my particular personal agency. But again, link in the description, you can read it for yourself, and it gets to the point of something that YouTube discussed years ago, which is that they had started giving out money to people in order to get them aboard to make exclusive style content. Now, mostly this was celebs. They wanted Will Smith to start being a YouTuber, basically. They want Arnold Schwarzenegger to start making streams or whatever. And it sort of defeated the purpose of YouTube, because there were people making even more polished content in some cases, and certainly more talented, by the millions of people, literally overflowing the site with content in some cases, which is what caused adpocalypse. I analyzed that years ago, that was about the fact that there were too many people taking ads for the number of ads being served, and they had to prioritize people that were getting better engagement levels. So they did that for priority creators, and then like the upper crust, like the top 1% of content creators did okay, the top 1/10 of 1% did really well, and everyone else sort of got fucked in the ass. I explained that at the time, but another group of people, AstroTurf creators. That is, people who appear to be independent, but really they're under a contract. You just don't know about it. And that's, at this point, a big thing. It's much like YouTube favoring, for instance, Vox Media. Vox Media has exclusive content through YouTube that it gets paid to create. In my opinion, it's a bit of a conflict of interest, though, because YouTube also contains independent, non-paid content by people like myself, like you in some cases, some of you watching, like Matt and Blonde, or you know, something like that. And a direct competitor is being promoted explicitly, is being paid for their content in a Netflix-style arrangement, and it's not exactly an even playing field. Years and years ago, I was chuckling because MTV News, when it came out with its video there about how bad white people were, they get ratioed, they get completely pounded. YouTube, by the way, thinking about getting rid of the dislike function because of stuff like this, because their priority creators are actually not particularly popular, which gets at what Razorfist is saying. But at the time I was saying, you know, I'll probably hit 100,000 subscribers before MTV News. Now MTV News 10 years ago was a relatively popular big thing. Certainly before that. It was big. It was like the later day early millennial, you know, sort of thing, later Gen X, early millennial. MTV was a huge thing, and MTV News, being an offshoot of that, was quite well known at the time. You know, sort of a college humor spin on news so-called. Yet they've struggled consistently. The Missing Link Media, older wave, you know, not even necessarily that old, but like 90s and 2000s era entertainment stuff, they've struggled to branch out onto social media. I think now that we're in an even new tech paradigm, with crypto and blockchain, alt tech, or what you could call new tech and stuff, they're getting left behind again. None of them are establishing any form of presence on alt tech. This is why I've put so much effort into BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble and Subscribestar and Minds and all of these other sites, even, relocating to Dailymotion, because I don't want to put all my eggs in what is now kind of an antiquated basket. YouTube's almost 20 years old, and people are like, the time flies, they don't even realize it. What YouTube is doing is essentially creating replacements for you. It's creating replacements for me. It's going to market them on the sly and pretend that they are independent by foisting more family-friendly content, number one. It won't be edgy like the 2000s YouTube. It won't be the sort of people that made Tourette's Guy and stuff like that. Number one. And number two, priority content like corporations. People under corporate contract and actual corporations are being pushed as replacements to people like you and me. It doesn't matter, by the way, what kind of content you make. Politics and current events gets hit the hardest on the nose, and comedy, I would say, number two. Anything like that, it'll branch out to everything else, because here's the problem. A lot of the most popular commentators and makeup artists and asthmatists and fitness gurus and so forth, what's happening to them at the moment? They're getting older. I'm in my 30s. I'm not like, a fresh-faced college kid anymore with a 360 webcam. YouTube has fundamentally shifted, and what it doesn't want to do, and it's going to become a huge problem, and I'll explain that too, what it doesn't want is to become the old person platform. It wants to be the young person platform. Here's the problem, and this is also a problem for creators, and by the way, if you're just starting out now, here is sage advice. If you get to the top and then you start to stagnate, and in some of our cases it's literally because of algorithmic distortion, you got two choices. You can become stagnant or you can change. The problem is, if you have to change your content around and reconfigure things but you go too far, you alienate your existing audience. This is what I think YouTube is at great risk for doing. The problem is that people like me still have inordinately large audiences. I'm still appearing to 150,000 people a day on YouTube, generally. Still pulling in huge amounts of engagement. Still have over 480,000 subscribers, despite the fact that, most of them are never notified when I do anything. What I chose to do, and what I've urged other people to do now for 3-4 years, don't change the style of content. It's still just as popular. People just aren't seeing it. It's not your fault. It's YouTube's fault. This goes to, even the grift leftists are slowing down right now because of the algorithms on the site operating the way they do. Branch out to other sites. Alt tech. Some people go off into streaming land, DLive, Twitch, whatever. I don't think that's a safe bet unless you've been doing that from day one. If you're into gaming or something, I guess you can get away with it. Even TikTok at this point, for certain people. If I were starting out today with an eye to simply making videos and seeing what happens, I wouldn't use YouTube. Honestly, I probably would not even make an account on the service unless I was using it as a jukebox. Because if you're just starting out right now, it's not like the way it was back in 2007 when I first started using the site, where there was no algorithmic manipulation. It was very democratized. People either liked or disliked the content. If it was liked, it got pushed up in the algorithms. It got seen more. You had a larger audience. And it worked. It worked just fine. Now that they've decided to play social justice warrior specifically with relation to analytical content, they've begun to astroturf a new wave of creators that are more controlled. They're younger. They're under corporate contract. They're not as edgy, to tell the truth. The 2000s kids on YouTube, people who joined up then like I did, way more edgy. Because we remember when YouTube, you could say whatever you wanted, basically. The only thing you couldn't have is suggestive content, which now is perfectly allowable. Lesbians making out got you banned before. Now it's, something YouTube would probably promote as a kid's show. Saying politically edgy stuff then, nobody gave a shit. Post 2015 or 16, of course, that's the main reason people get banned, especially for something they made back when it was considered perfectly okay. YouTube is fundamentally shifting. What I worry about is it's shifting too far, and if the site goes into a MySpace-style tailspin, or ends up like Yahoo, which, by the way, they're getting rid of Yahoo Answers, so what the fuck would you use Yahoo for? Anything at this point. If it goes skeleton crew mode and starts collapsing, it takes all the creators down with it. Well, I mean, I don't want to have to be a rat fleeing a sinking ship. I want to have a nice little island already drawn up for myself, a place in the sun. That's BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, Minds, all of these other sites. I think that's the right way to go. That's why I've hybridized my material. People have said, I've had some people say, for example, well, why don't you just quit YouTube and Twitter and stuff? Well, because you use them to promote your other presences. That's how you drag people away from these sites that are beginning to start to kill themselves. If you want to make it into the next tech paradigm that I believe is already blossoming and beginning to dawn on us, you have to do that if you have an established audience. It's the only way that you're going to survive. Again, I strongly recommend that all content creators that are predominantly on like YouTube, Twitter, and stuff like that begin branching out. Don't wait until shit hits the fan. You'll be left behind, essentially. You're only going to recoup 10-15% of your audience onto these sites if you haven't made any additional investment. I've already managed to get, what, a third of my entire audience just onto BitChute? I think that's pretty good. That's about all. Peace out.